We will now call the business session of the February 2nd, 2021 City Council meeting to order at 6:09 p.m. On March 16th, 2020, the governor suspended various provisions of the Open Meetings Act pursuant to his state of disaster authority. The change was effective March 16th, 2020, until further notice or until the state of disaster declaration expires. In accordance with physical distancing guidelines and while providing as much transparency as possible, this meeting will not be open to the public. This meeting is being broadcast at wccc.tv. The audio is also being recorded. The video and audio recordings will be available to the public. According to the governor and attorney general, the statutes that may require face-to-face interaction between members of the public and public officials are suspended, provided, however, that the governmental body offers alternative methods of communication with their public officials. This includes public comment on agenda items. In an effort to allow for as much public input as possible, those who wish to speak or submit their written comments on a listed agenda item are asked to register with the city secretary's office by 1 p.m. today. Individuals who registered to speak on an agenda item must limit their comments to 3 minutes. On items other than public hearings, speakers will be allotted 1 3-minute presentation on a number of agenda items the speaker wishes to address. When called to speak, please state your name for the record. Any person making personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the city council shall be removed if directed by the presiding officer. And now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next on the agenda is to consider the minutes of the January 19th, 2021 regular council meeting. Are there any corrections? There being no corrections, the minutes will stand approved as presented. And we will now move to our public hearings. We have 3 public hearings tonight.
Yes, Mayor, for the first public hearing, Renisha will be joining us to give the staff presentation.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. This is a public hearing to review an open air vending permit renewal application which was denied by Code Compliance Division. The City of Waco's Code of Ordinance requires each open air vendor within the city to obtain a license to operate. The license is valid for 1 year and must be renewed annually. Section 13-4006D of the ordinance requires a vendor to submit a written statement from every resident within 200 feet of the vending location, declaring they have no objections to the vending operations. The case for your review today concerns Las Trancas Taqueria number 4, located at 400 North 25th Street. The property located at 508 North 25th Street is a residential property within 200 feet of Las Trancas food truck. The property is owned by Alex Martinez, who uses the residence as a rental property. Mr. Martinez has not provided Las Trancas with a written statement that he does not object to the food truck's operation. Consequently, city staff did not renew Las Trancas outdoor vending permit for 2021. In accordance with Section 13-416 of the Code of Ordinances, Las Trancas appeals that denial to the City Council.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any questions for staff? We will now open a public hearing for are there?
Yeah, just a quick question. And Jennifer, please correct me if I am going into land that I'm not allowed to go into. But this ordinance strikes me as odd, just because if one resident votes no, that seems like a lot of power to give a single resident, whereas in our short-term, like our STR ordinances, it's a certain percentage. Am I veering into dangerous territory here?
No, not at all, council member. All this ordinance does is make it a council action item if one resident doesn't have consent. So a resident can't take away your ability to run a permit. It just makes it a council action versus a staff action.
Gotcha. Okay, that's helpful clarification.
Any other questions for staff? We will now open a public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak on this item?
Yes, Mayor and Council. Mr. John Montes is going to be promoted to the meeting so that he can speak on this item.
Thank you.
Mr. Montes?
Good evening. My name is John Montez. I reside at, my office is at 523 Herring Avenue, Waco, Texas. And I'm the attorney for Las Trancas that's filing this appeal. Just for the record, this business is a minority-owned small business, has been at this location since February 12th of 2011. I reviewed the records. This business has had no problems with any of the city departments, whether it be the health department, police department, or the inspection department. They have provided a service to the city residents for over 11 years. They employ 20 people who work at this place of business. They've worked very hard in the past years to provide a good service to the residents and to the city of Waco. One thing I want to notice, as was noted, we have not been able to get from Mr. Martinez as to why he would not agree to the continuation of the permit. However, I just noted that one of the terms of the permit says that it has that a resident is the one that has the grounds to object. Mr. Martinez is not a resident. He does own the property, but he does not reside there. And it's ironic that the people that usually reside at that location are frequent patrons of Las Trancas. And although we did not talk to them about giving their approval, I mean, the fact that they come to our place of business and eat quite frequently surely indicates some side of approval from them for us being there. As stated, I think that Jovita Vasquez, who is the owner and operator of this business, has done a good job of operating this business. She has employed a security company to just make sure that there are no problems with her place of business. Now, we have heard that there have been some problems with some people loitering, but we should call it to the council's attention that there are 4 gaming rooms in and around this location on 24th Street and 25th Street. Those people do walk to and from that location. The people that come to our location primarily drive, get their food, either eat there or take their food and leave. There are no people that come to our place of business that are simply walking up and down the street. So if Mr. Martinez has been having some problems with people walking by his area, and we've heard that from some of the city inspectors that that's his problem, it's not from people that are patronizing our business. It may be the gaming rooms that are located right down the street from him that they're coming from. Again, this place of business done great service, and we would respectfully request that the city approve the permit for another year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. Is there any other speakers on this item?
Yes, sir. We have actually.
Hey, Mayor, I'm sorry. Can I ask Mr. Montes a few questions before?
You can, but he will have an opportunity to.
I'm sorry. Okay, you're right. You're right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So yes, Mayor and Council, Mr. Alex Martinez did submit a comment. He registered to have me read the comment on his behalf. And he states, I have had problems through the years with the litter on my property from Las Trancas. I have had to repair my fence year after year since Las Trancas has been in business at 400 North 25th Street. And I've had to tolerate loud music and drawings late into the evening since Las Trancas has been doing business at 400 North 25th Street. I have had to ask customers to not park on my property. I've had drunks throw beer cans at my property. I've had a fire on my front porch, most likely lit by a drunk from the taco stand because it was late into the night and the only people around the area at night come from the taco stand. I have had to ask people to stop urinating on my property. These people are coming from the taco stand. That's the end of the comment.
Thank you, Esmeralda. And now Mr. Montez will have a rebuttal.
No.
Your Honor, Mr. Mayor, just for a couple of things. One, as we stated, we don't have people that come to our business, they're walking, they come in vehicles. Our place has plenty of parking. Our security keeps the parking areas clear and clean and moving. We have never had any problems with parking at that location. As far as littering, he is at the far corner. He's in the corner of 25th and 4th. We're at 25th and Waco Drive. We maintain and we police our area. We clean up trash that comes to our area from the convenience store located at 26th and Waco Drive, 25th and Waco Drive. You know, wind blows, trash comes. We pick up what comes to our area, even though it's not our trash. I don't see how our trash can go down a full block to create such a nuisance for him. As far as people doing things on his yard or doing things in his yard, again, our people do not walk to our place of business, they drive. He may have some valid complaints, but I think the complaints may be aimed more at people that patronize the gaming rooms down the street from him.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. Any questions for Mr. Montez?
Mr. Montes, thank you so much for being here this evening. Earlier you said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Las Trancas Taqueria has has contracted a third-party security group. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We have a security company that comes to our place. They actually stay there. Hold on for a minute. For 4 hours. From 4 in the morning until 4 in the morning. Okay, so they're actually there until 4 o'clock in the morning every day.
Okay, so if there were any issues or any illegal activities going on, the security company would address that.
Well, not only that, but Councilman Sabido, we probably have at any given day, we have city police officers that are there. We have the Waco Health Department is over there. The inspection department is there. We have lots of people that come to our place of business that if there was a problem, it would have been known to the police department and there would be a big write-up. I checked to the point that I could look, we did not have any single write-up with the Waco Police Department.
Okay, thank you, sir.
This is Holmes. Go for it, Holmes.
Yeah, this is Holmes. Mr. Montes, I just want to hear it again. Las Trancas has been there for 11 years, right?
Yes, sir.
And they have 20 people employed there.
Yes, sir.
Right. And they have hired a security company, as Councilman Sabido said. And the complainant does not actually reside there. And I don't want to get into definitional issues, but that's correct as well, right?
That's correct.
And is it possible to identify the litter as Las Trancas litter? Is there like a logo on there or something, or could it be litter from anywhere?
Well, it could be, but we not only have security that patrols our area, but we also have employees that clean up. After everybody eats at our meal, not only do the people clean up their own mess, but we have employees that go right after and clean up all the trash and all the stuff. After the store is closed, at the end of every shift, there is a cleanup. We clean up and patrol everything out there and put everything up. So I don't see how there could be that kind of litter. I'm not going to say there's not a piece of paper or a cup or something, but there's not that kind of litter. And also, we don't sell beer. We don't sell any alcoholic beverages. So there are bottles there that don't come from our place of business.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. That was one of the questions that I wanted to ask, is if y'all were selling alcohol.
No, ma'am, we don't.
My follow-up question is, what are the hours of business for the taco truck?
Usually till about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. I, just as a note, drove by here earlier today and did not see trash in the immediate area.
Mr. Montes, thank you. My questions were answered in the previous council questions because one, I wanted to know if you all sold alcohol. My second question was if there had been any complaints made to PD or to code or to anybody about the things that were listed in Mr. Martinez's complaint, if any had been received, for instance, noise complaints, the public indecency, all of those kinds of things. Were there complaints on file and made to PD, or was PD called at any of those instances that you have knowledge of?
Not to my knowledge. Plus, we asked the city inspector because we didn't know why he wouldn't sign the permission or the permit. And he did make a statement about people urinate on his fence, not to us, but to the inspector. People urinate on his fence, which again, I mean, they're not our people drive. They don't walk to the location. But we don't know. We don't know what his real complaint is because he wouldn't talk to us about it.
Thank you, Mr. Montez. Any other questions for Mr. Montez? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank Thank you.
We will close the public hearing. Before I ask for a motion, I had a quick question for staff. You know, if there was loud music or trash or parking concerns, just like any commercial building, there would be a remedy that a complainant could charge. I mean, just like at any business, if there's loud music at 2 a.m., then we have a remedy for that, correct, Jennifer?
Yes, that's correct. We have a sound ordinance.
Great. So there's still a remedy to the extent there would be loud music or any of these other complaints, I would assume. Fair. Okay. Thank you.
Sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we extend Las Trancas Taqueria's permit for another year.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'll start it off if I may. I completely sympathize with Mr. Martinez and some of the issues he's had to deal with, which is unfair, especially if you live in the area or if that is happening at your place of residence. But I also have to take into consideration that this business is located in the business sector in one of our busiest streets in the city of Waco, which is Waco Drive. And so, you know, I think, you know, we look at the history of Las Trancas and we haven't had Waco PD out there. There haven't been other issues that we know through the city. They have passed every inspection or have met every part of the permit for it to be renewed, with the exception of this one. And so because I look at the historical context and I look at all the information, I'm inclined to allow them to keep operating.
Any other discussion?
Yeah,
Please.
just similar to Mayor Pro Tem, the fact that this is a minority-owned business that's been in District 4 for over 10 years is a beloved taqueria in the city at large. I know many friends that this is one of their favorite go-to places for tacos. This feels like a both and of, yes, we want our neighborhoods to be walkable, we want our neighborhoods to be quiet, we want our neighborhoods to be clean, we want our neighborhoods to be safe, and we want to promote local small business ownership. And so in light of the details that Mr. Montez talked us through, I feel very comfortable to extend this permit for a year and would like to know if we can review this permit process to consider a percentage over a single number.
Any other discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Porterud,
Yes.
Fairfield,
Yes.
Sabido,
Yes.
Meek,
Yes, that motion carries. And we'll now move on to public hearing 2021-63. Clint Peters from our Development Services Director will be making a presentation remotely.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a continuation of a public hearing to consider a resolution granting a special permit to AKA Moe's Girls 5231 LLC for a short-term rental type 2 in R1B zoning district on property described as Lot 3, Block 5 of the Meadowwood Edition, that is 2408 North 49th Street. By a vote of 7-2, the Plan Commission recommended approval of the request based on the following findings. 1, the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. 2, the proposed use is compatible with the appropriate and orderly development of the area which is located. 3, that the proposed use would not be more objectionable to neighboring properties because of traffic congestion, noise, fumes, vibrations, or any other characteristics than any use permitted in the zoning district without the grant of the special exception. And that available community facilities and services, including the road system providing access to the proposed use, are adequate for the proposed use. Pursuant to state law and the zoning ordinance, if a protest is filed with the commissioner or city council against an application, it should not be approved except by a 3/4 vote of all members of council. A protest must be signed by the owners of the 20% or more, either of the area of the lots included in the application or the lots or land immediately adjoining the area, which is the subject to the application extending 200 feet from the area. In this case, a protest was received meeting this criteria. Therefore, a 3/4 city council vote is required for approval of the request.
Very good. Are there any questions for staff?
This is Holmes. Clint, I think you obviously said it there, but we're still over. What percentage of opposition was there within 200 feet?
28.6.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for staff? All right, we will open up a public hearing for comments. Did anyone register to speak?
Yes, sir. We did have the applicant, Amy Mose, registered to speak, and I'm going to promote her now to, I am muted, to the panel. And she'll have 3 minutes to speak. Amy, are you there?
Amy, you're muted if you're there. We see you. I see your box, but you're muted.
There.
Hey, Amy.
Hi. Yes, as requested, I was able to go door to door, and I received some favorable responses from those who were willing to open their door to me. I believe after meeting with the neighbors, they were at ease with my STR. They liked my house rules that I showed them. And one family, I did change their opinion about the STR being in our community. I've submitted all that information this afternoon with my house rules and other devices that are located at this house for safety. I believe it was helpful for me to just understand the process and feel more comfortable with the STR and the neighbors. Like I said, not everyone opened their door to me. I went several times, but it is COVID season still. So I don't know if I just missed them or if they were just uncomfortable talking. So I appreciate the opportunity you given me to talk to the neighbors. And so I did get several signatures, and I can answer any questions about those.
Ms. Mose, we will have a chance to come back and ask you questions in a moment. So I appreciate that, and we will now move on to the next speaker. Esmeralda, is there anyone else registered to speak?
Yes, sir. Let me, going to promote Marilyn Ammons and Bob Ammon. I think they both registered separately. We'll start with Marilyn because I see her. Miss Ammon, are you on the line? You're on mute. Miss Ammon, if you're calling from a phone, you can hit *6 to unmute.
I got it. Here I am. Okay, sorry.
Ms. Ammon.
I think, can you hear me?
We can.
Thanks,
Yes.
Great. Okay, you think for my third time I know what to do, but I don't. Okay, hi, I'm gonna just give you all a quick update. I was the one initially that took a petition around. So here's an updated petition. I focused primarily on 49th Street because that is the street we are most negatively impacted by this. I live at 2433 North 49th. Pine runs into my living room if people don't turn left or right. So I have the most obvious vantage point for the traffic patterns. Anyway, but my focus was still to canvass the closest and the most affected neighbors. All those who signed up originally, they all were very much committed to their stance, and they actually were increased. So there has been some discomfort addressed in our neighborhood because of this additional 30 days and the increased talk. I will say that of the two neighbors that were new, the next door neighbor were new today. So you'll notice there's a revised. So y'all have a copy of this, I believe, of the revised or the updated. So I just had people sign again. 6 people that are in what we call the center of love. Those people are the next door neighbor, one up. Those in the as you'll look on your map, that literally their driveways, either they share parking on the street or they have a shared fence or they have a corner. So they're very close. The other 4 are like at the neighbor of the 49th and Meadowwood or on 50th where traffic patterns come. And I do recall that you did your city assessment regarding traffic patterns, et cetera. But I do also know it is during and was during the lockdown. No church, no school, no people going to work. So I really think that ought to be null and void if that's anything that helps with your decision. But anyway, so basically, I also have done some work to look on any positives that come from established neighborhoods like we have with over a 50-year track record. Many of us have been here over 40 years, and that this improves our neighborhood. And I have seen nothing but negative. So I hope that you do consider that this zoning that is residential 1B works. It works in this neighborhood. We're happy with it. And I think you don't need to mess with success. And we'd be glad to work together with all the people who are already here as residents, but to bring in daily tourists and the potential for safety and the traffic patterns and the pedestrian traffic. We do not have sidewalks. We have lots of new families. So I hope you guys have listened to a lot of the stuff that's come on. I will say the 3 things we really need to consider: protect the seniors in our neighborhood, the young new families, which we are thrilled to death, the babies and strollers and grandmas and the families, and the success of this neighborhood. So the city wants neighborhoods to be successful. You have one here. I have not seen any evidence that you presented that by adding Ms. Moa's motel in a very jammed up section of 49th Street, which I live on, and our traffic patterns are pretty tight in this little circle of love here. So thank you for considering to disapprove it. And I hope that if there's any other decisions, that we will be given the same opportunity that you gave Ms. Mose to continue to voice our opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Salmon. Is Mr. Ammon on the line? Or is he planning on making a comment?
I believe so. I have a phone number that doesn't have a name to attach to it, so I'm going to try that. Mr. Ammons, is that you?
Mr. Ammons, you're on mute if you're on the line.
And if you're calling from a phone, you have to hit *6.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Bob Ammon. I want to thank every city councilman for their service, first of all. I've got 5 points. I'll try to make them in 3 minutes. Number 1, we all agree with City Councilman Kelly Palmer. She stated she wants to see through the ongoing COVID pandemic recovery effort, and we're in total agreement with this. This is not the time to have a hotel or a short-term rental in our neighborhood. We're concerned about the health and welfare of our young families and seniors. And I think it's kind of ironic that this meeting is a Zoom meeting, and I assume for public safety precautions, which I agree with. So that should be something we consider when we're deciding on this issue. We don't want an outbreak of COVID in our neighborhood. No one can assure us of the health of the people coming into and out of this hotel on a random basis, and we don't want to risk our neighborhood. Number 2, I totally personally agree with Andrea Barefield's representation of her district. People there did not want short-term rentals. She represented those people magnificently. The council agreed and said no to rezoning. The mayor at that time did not attempt to stop the city council vote. He respected their position, and I do too. Number 3, we were asked to poll the neighbors, which my wife just mentioned. She submitted a signed petition with addresses for verification. The council was set to vote no last time, if you roll back the tape, at about 100% as I could tell, and Mr. Meek stopped the vote. He counseled Ms. Mose to canvass the neighborhood to see if she could change minds or sway opinions. And I'll tell you what, that action right there demoralized their neighborhood more than he will ever know. He did not counsel us on how to stop the rezoning. I'd really like to know why. Number 4, Ms. Mose was asked directly by a city councilman, why don't you lease this property? And her answer was, I think I'm quoting directly, it is not in my financial best interest. I repeat, it is not in my financial best interest. So does she consider the best interest of the neighborhood? It sounds like we are here for her financial best interest. And finally, Ms. Mose stated that she would be the person in charge of any issues at the property. She stated she has a job. If someone calls her at 9 a.m., can she leave that job and immediately get over here? Then she stated she has a neighbor that would help her. What if that neighbor is shopping, at church, phone off, at school with the kids, vacationing? Does anybody see where this could go wrong? So what it seems like, if there is an issue, the people in the neighborhood are going to need a Rolodex of who to call. So I encourage you to vote no. And finally, my wife was right. There are 3 families who recently moved into the 49th Street area close to this house. Each spent a considerable amount of money in renovation before they moved in. 3 to 6 months renovating. It was fantastic. Each has small children. None were informed of the potential of a short-term rental, and none are for this idea. So I thank you very much.
Mr. Hammond, I so appreciate those comments. I just want you to know that there's a precedent of this council of us encouraging neighbors to try to engage in discussions and hear one another out. So in no way did I attempt to demoralize your neighborhood. I cherish your neighborhood and find it a lovely part of our city, and so support good, robust conversation. In the past, we've seen neighbors come together and be able to reach consensus one way or another on this. And so it was in that spirit that I encouraged that conversation. So,
okay. So did you encourage our end?
What's that?
Did you encourage me to go around to our neighbors and then oppose this? You only encouraged her side. And so that really demoralized people, whether you see it or not. I'm sorry you don't see it, but we felt like we were not being heard. We did everything we were asked to do. Signed the petition, got the neighbors to put their name on a list, gave the addresses, and then your group was set to vote, and it was probably going to be 100% for not rezoning, and you stopped it. And I'll tell you what, that didn't make people very happy, whether you like it or not. I'm just telling you the way that it is.
Sure. Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me. Again, that was not my intent. My intent was to give Ms. Mose, your neighbor who lives in your neighborhood, a chance to talk to some of her neighbors and engage in conversation. So I so appreciate your feedback, and we're trying to do the best we can here. So thank you for your comments, Mr. Hammond. Are there any other comments?
No one else registered to speak during the public hearing on this item, so you still have an opportunity for the rebuttal portion.
All right, Ms. Mose, your chance for rebuttal.
Yes, thank you guys. As far as the traffic's concerned, I don't see the concern versus having a family of 4 with, 2 teenagers driving as to having a short-term rental, having a couple of cars there, a few days a week in and out. So I don't know that the traffic would increase that much. And in my home rules, the difference between being a short-term rental and being allowed to set some rules and house rules, asking the tenants and telling them ahead of time, because I would be monitoring them and I would be interviewing them before I gave them property, gave them the okay to sign the lease for a weekend getaway or whatever. Would be to encourage them to park in the driveway and tell them that is the rule. It's a quiet neighborhood, and I've done everything possible to keep it quiet, as opposed to a long-term renter. I don't think those rules would apply. As of now, like I live beside a long-term renter who has put out couches on his street that I face every morning to look at while I'm drinking my coffee, and there's nothing the city can do about that, that there's couches on the corner of 50th and Live Oak, and beds. So, and as far as the financial thing, well, yes, property is the real estate is increasing, anyone's interest. So yes, I've preferred to put some money into real estate and put, instead of an IRA or the stock market in today's world, and figured either way that I would be able to see this grow for my benefit, yes, but for the benefit of the neighborhood to have an STR. I'm going to keep the house up to immaculate instead of letting the grass grow too high. Nobody wants to come and stay at a house that's not renovated or has, fresh paint and is clean. They review me on the platforms that I would use, and I review the renters. So I wouldn't be renting to someone that didn't have a review or had negative reviews. I'm looking for someone that's coming in to see their kid graduate from Baylor, or coming to the rodeo to see their kid, participate in barrel racing. I'm looking for the renters that are going to be respectful to my property as well as the neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms. Mose. Any questions for Ms. Mose? All right. Thank you, Ms. Mose. Are there any other individuals registered to speak?
No, sir.
All right, we will close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we deny the short-term rental permit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, this is Holmes, and I've made this position, I've articulated this position many times. I think in our areas, the areas of our city that are zoned for single family, there should be a level of expectation that people who invest in those homes and spend their money in a neighborhood and invest in that neighborhood, that they not be dealing with quasi-commercial activity. And where there's a material level of opposition from proximate neighbors, I find it compelling to support the opposition. And again, I try to be as objective and dispassionate as possible, because Miss Mose seems like a fantastic neighbor, fantastic person. And I think she'd be a great neighbor. And this isn't about neighbor versus neighbor. To me, it's about a critical mass of neighbors want to preserve single family residential activity in their neighborhood. So I will be voting in favor of the denial.
I'm going to echo Councilmember Holmes. You know, this is nothing personal against Ms. Mose. It's just more to me listening to the neighbors, the neighborhood, the neighbors that are going to be affected directly or that are in close proximity to this proposed STR. And so that's what my decision is based on, just the response of the neighborhood.
This will be a great time for me to mention again that we probably ought to have a strategic plan about where Waco wants to go with short-term rentals, because every neighborhood is different. We sit in a position when certain neighborhoods come across with short-term rentals, it's oh no, we're not gonna do that. And then the other ones, it's just fine. And then it's proximal. You know, my stance on my district comes to the fact that we have a shortage of homes, period. So, you know, I'm how you commercialize residences that have a lack and unstable housing stability. Doesn't make sense, but whatever. It's almost impossible to make those kinds of sound decisions by neighborhood to neighborhood. So, you know, City Manager Ford, I would recommend that you and Director Peters gather together and see if we can't get a idea of where Waco wants to go regarding short-term housing, because we're going to continue to go with this back and forth forever and until we get a plan in place.
Yep, I just agree with Councilmember Bearfield that there is a need for a strategic plan. This is a difficult one because the applicant lives in the neighborhood, and I think there's a lot of value in that. And again, we've seen times where applicants who have lived in the neighborhood have gone and talked to their neighbors and they were able to work it out. And you want to be able to support dreams and endeavors like that. But then there's this real tension of folks who live immediately nearby who signed up for a strictly residential neighborhood and feel like that's being taken from them. So this is not a fun one for us. And in that, but because I tend to agree with some of my co-council members who have spoken about the number of neighbors who are against this, and because despite what I'm assuming were her good efforts to talk to her neighbors, because there are neighbors who are still not in favor of this, I'm going to vote in favor of the motion. But I think this is something that we need a strategic plan, because this is tough. And I wish Ms. Mose the best. So with that, is there any other discussion? All right, please poll the council.
Yes, sir. Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Porterud?
Yes.
Bearfield?
No.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And we will now move on to public hearing 2021-64, which is Clint Peters, our Development Services Director, will be making a presentation remotely on this.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, this is a continuance of a public hearing to consider a resolution granting a special permit to Waco Property Rental LLC for a self-storage warehouse in C2 zoning district on property described as Lot 1, Block 1 of the H&B Casparian Edition known as 27605 West Highway 84. By a vote of 8-1, the Plan Commission recommended approval of the request based on the following findings. 1, the proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. 2, the proposed use is compatible with appropriate and orderly development of the area in which it's located. 3, that the proposed use would not be more objectionable to neighboring properties because of traffic congestion, noise, fumes, vibrations, or any other characteristics. That any use permitted in the zoning district without the grant of the special exception. And 4, that the available community facilities and services, including the road system providing access to the proposed use, are adequate for the proposed use. Pursuant to state law and zoning ordinance, if the protest is filed by the commission, with the commission or city council against an application, it shall not be approved except for a 3/4 vote of all the members of council. Protest must be signed by the owners of 20% or more, either of the area of the lots included in the application or of the lots of land immediately adjoining the area, which is subject to the application extending 200 feet from such area. In this case, a protest received meeting this criteria, therefore a 3/4 city council vote is required for approval of the request.
I'm muted. Thank you, Clint. Any questions for staff?
Yeah, this is Holmes. And Clint, I think we talked about it a little bit this afternoon, but do you have, and this one also is one of the 20% 200 foot, but do we have information that's more than anecdotal and can you talk about it, or maybe we talk about it after more testimony, about the original opposition perhaps reconsidering their position? Or I don't know all the speakers that are filed. Maybe we'll hear from that. But I don't want to lose Clint before I get that feedback.
Sure. It might be best for the applicant to get that feedback.
Okay.
He was at all the meetings. Staff was at 2 of the 3 meetings. And I believe in those 2 meetings, 3 of the 4 neighbors in opposition attended those 2 meetings. And just the feedback that we got after hearing all the information about the zoning, what's being proposed with a special permit versus what's allowed by right and C2 zoning, the feeling that I got is they would rather see this type of use than a permitted use such as a hotel or restaurant or convenience store developed on that property. If it was going to be developed, I think everybody's first choice is that it stayed vacant. But we told the group this property has been undeveloped for a long time because it did not have sewer access. And the owner of the property just recently extended the sewer. So it is, with the growth out there, we do think it's going to develop as some sort of commercial use in the near future because of that access to sewer now.
And it is zoned commercial, right? It's
C2. That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? All right, we will open a public hearing. Did anyone register to speak?
Yes, sir. We have Mr. Taylor McInish. I'm promoting him now to panelist, and he has 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, sir.
Mr. McInish, are you on the line? You can use your camera as well.
Can you hear me? Good evening.
Sir, we can hear you.
All right, so this is Taylor McInish, and I'll be representing the self-storage development on Highway 84. First thing I want to say is thank you, Mayor and council members, for your time. So the last time we spoke, the decision pertaining to the special permit was tabled in order for me to meet with the neighbors to address their questions. So I met with the neighbors through Zoom meetings and at the site location to inform them as much as possible. So the meeting that was held at the site location consisted of all the neighbors that had questions. I went over the site layout, building setbacks, drainage, how the buildings will be located around the perimeter for privacy, the lighting will be placed on the buildings, landscaping around the perimeter, maintenance and upkeep of the facility, as well as the operating hours. So, and the majority of the neighbors agreed that the self-storage facility with conditions would be preferred compared to the already permitted items that won't have conditions. I also just wanted to make myself available to answer any questions pertaining to the request for special permit.
Thank you, Taylor. Esmeralda, are there any other, anyone else registered to speak?
No, sir, nobody else registered to speak on this item.
All right, any questions for Mr. McAninch?
Yeah, this is Holmes. I do have a question on when you say the majority of citizens, or however you characterize it, were those the people? I think there were 4 people that originally were having trouble getting in support of this project. Were those the 4 that you visited with?
Yes, I met with 4 of them, and 3 out of the 4 were fine with it. The 4th one, it didn't matter what was behind him. He didn't want anything behind him at all. He wanted the land to stay vacant. He wanted the neighbor, which is Caspian Underground, to move further west. He didn't want anything on the land, no matter what. So there was 3 out of 4.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McAninch. Yeah, because I think the communication I saw in there, some of them were of the opinion that it wouldn't be any kind of commercial, and it's definitely going to be. It'll be developed as some element of commercial activity there. So part of it was just getting that part clarified. But anyway, thank you for the answer there.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Councilmember Holmes, you're muted.
Is there a motion?
Thank you, Jennifer. I will move that we approve the special permit.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, and this is one where Holmes again, that communication was good. I'm glad Mr. McAninch went out and did speak to everybody who was having questions about it. Some of the original questions weren't entirely clear, as I mentioned just a bit ago, that they were thinking that there couldn't be any commercial there. So I appreciate to echo what Mayor was saying a little bit ago, open the communication and try to resolve the issues. And here's where we kind of saw it work. So I'll be obviously voting in favor of this.
Good. Any other discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Porterud?
Yes.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And now we will move on to the consent agenda. We've received speaker cards for agenda item resolution 2021-65. And we are also removing 2021-72 from the consent agenda. So,
So we can, if it's your preference, we can vote and listen to the speaker for resolution 2021-065. We have a speaker, Jorge Villalente, and then entertain a motion.
Please pull him in.
Will do. Mr. Villalente, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. And you can also turn on your camera if you like, and the council is giving you 3 minutes.
Awesome, perfect. So my name is Jorge Villalente. I am a pilot and aircraft owner based out of Waco Regional Airport. I've been a regular attendee of the Aviation Advisor meeting since 2013 when I was an intern at the airport. Due to the experiences I've had there, I've been interested in joining the board for a couple of years now. Ms. Hudson did explain a little bit about the selection from different districts. So the following does fall a little bit more along the lines of concern of the selection process of members for this board. Especially since I can only assume that some of these concerns will probably carry over to other boards across the city. So my concern is that the aviation community has not been represented well throughout the board over the past couple of years. Over the past couple of years, I can only count probably a handful of individuals that have been from the Waco community, whether it's the airport in McGregor, the airport in Waco Regional, or TSTC. Only a handful have actually been part of that aviation community, and it's a wealth of knowledge that does exist there. So, and I actually do believe that there's one member that is part of that is currently on the board. So To the council, I do have a couple of concerns that I'm bringing forward. The first is I am calling into question a little bit of the integrity of the application process, as I do know a couple of individuals that have been appointed to this and other boards without having submitted an application. So how can this be representative of that aviation community or any other community that is pertinent to one of the advisory boards for the city? If some of the individuals that are on the board haven't applied for the board, or it's ignoring some of the people that are interested in just avoiding their applications. The second is, how can the aviation community be better represented in the future? I know Zoom and COVID kind of threw a curveball at everybody, but at least in the old meetings, I was sitting in the room, I was able to ask questions that just isn't as allowable in the current environment. So those are my two questions. One is the integrity of the application process. How can we actually make that a more rigorous and standard option? And then two is, how can that community be better represented within Waco?
Thank you, sir. I appreciate those comments. Our former mayor is a pilot, and I think he served on this board. And I think that I really look forward to talking to him, and because I think that these are well taken. I received this feedback, and it's certainly worth looking into to make sure that we're putting our best and brightest into board and commission seats that'll influence and direct us as we go forward. So I take this while council members do have the ability and the authority to appoint whomever they may choose. I think I speak for all of us when I say that we have a commitment to appointing the best and the brightest to these seats. So this is excellent feedback that I steward and take very seriously. And we'll look into this, and I would love to engage into a conversation with you in the future about some of your vision for our aviation community in general, as well as this board specifically. And I also will reach out to former Mayor Deaver and see what vision he might have for it, having kind of lived in both worlds, both as a pilot and in city government. Thank you, sir. Does anyone else have any questions for the speaker?
Just for clarification, there are two commissions that serve the aviation community. Is that right?
And I'm speaking from my memory, council member. There's the advisory board that advises on our Waco Regional Airport. And then I think what you're referring to is there's a McGregor zoning board that meets when needed, and that meets less often. And that, and I'm just speaking based on my memory, so I hope I'm correct.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, that was what my thoughts were. So thank you, City Attorney Ritchie. City Secretary Hudson, one of the questions I think that we made mention and brought forth at boards and commission was that perhaps it may be time to evaluate our standards of how we rotate seats on the boards and commissions, because I know that one of the things that we encourage our citizens to do is get active and engaged with boards and commissions, especially those who matriculate through Leadership Plenty and some of our other leadership organizations. And what we realize is that there are just not that many open seats. So perhaps this is the opportunity for us to go back and look at that for that reason. But Mayor Meek also mentioned that it is the pleasure of the council members to choose their representatives on their boards and commission seats. But I think that because we want people to engage and continue to be active in the growth and development of their city, that perhaps we can look at the way that is structured going forward. But I think that we certainly appreciate folks interested in our boards and commissions, and while we are working through this process, we always encourage folks, if you have an active neighborhood association, to get involved in that one.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor and Council, and it's exciting to see the increased interest over the last several years of our community of all facets who are interested in serving and becoming civically involved and serving the council. So that's exciting, and I think I will work towards bringing that City of Council Boards and Commission policy back to the council to look at a future boards and commission meeting, and work with Bradley and Jennifer to see what kind of opportunities we have and recommendations.
Yep. Thank you, guys. Is there a motion?
I move we approve Resolution 65.
Any further discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Porteroo?
Yes.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And the consent agenda consists of resolutions 2021-66 through 2021-83, with the exception of resolutions 2021-65 and 72. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
Second. Either way.
We have a couple motions in a couple seconds. Is there any discussion? Great. Hearing none, please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Porteroo?
Yes.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, the consent agenda carries, and there are three ordinances for consideration. Ordinance 2021-84 on first and final reading.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Waco, Texas, authorizing the issuance of one or more series of City of Waco, Texas combination tax and revenue certificates of obligation in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $81 million, levying a tax and providing for the award of the sale thereof in accordance with specified parameters, authorizing the execution and delivery of documents and agreements in connection therewith, approving the preparation of one or more official statements, enacting other provisions relating thereto, declaring an effective date, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance comes to you on first and final reading pursuant to Texas Government Code 1201.028.
Is there a motion?
Motion for approval on first and final reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Porteroo?
Yes.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And we have ordinance 2021-85 on first and final reading.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Waco, Texas, authorizing the issuance of City of Waco, Texas General Obligation Refunding Bonds Series 2021 in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $25 million, providing for the award of the sale thereof in accordance with specified parameters, authorizing the execution and delivery of documents and agreements in connection therewith, approving the preparation of an official statement, enacting other provisions relating thereto, declaring an effective date, and finding and determining the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance comes to you on first and final reading pursuant to Texas Government Code 1201.028.
Is there a motion?
Motion for approval on first and final reading.
Second.
Any discussion? Please poll the council.
Holmes?
Aye.
Palmer?
Aye.
Porteroo?
Yes.
Fairfield?
Yes.
Sabido?
Yes.
Meek?
Yes, that motion carries. And we have ordinance 2021-86 on second reading.
An ordinance of the City of Waco, Texas, amending Section 6-26 through 6-36 of Article 2 and Section 6-239 of Article 4, Chapter 6, Buildings and Building Regulations, and amending Sections 10, 20, 1021, and 1024 of Article 2, Chapter 10, Fire Prevention and Protection of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Waco, McLennan County, Texas, to adopt various 2018 international codes relating to the construction, renovation, use, and maintenance of buildings and building systems, and adopting the 2020 National Electric Code to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, providing for severability, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing a savings clause, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for a penalty, providing for an enforcement date, and finding and terminating the meeting at which this ordinance is passed is open to the public as required by law. This ordinance was approved by a 6-0 council vote on first reading on January 19th, 2021.
Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval on second reading.
Second.
Please poll the council. Any discussion? Sorry, any discussion? All right, please pull the council.
Holmes,
Aye.
Palmer,
Aye.
Porteroo,
Yes.
Bearfield,
Yes.
Sabido,
Yes.
Meek.
Yes, that motion carries. We will now open the hearing of visitors. During the hearing of visitors section of the agenda, we will provide an opportunity for the public to present concerns or address issues that are not matters of consideration listed on an agenda. Council is unable to conduct discussion, but will listen, ask staff to look into concerns, and provide follow-up. When called on to speak, please state your name for the record. Each speaker must limit comments to 3 minutes. Any person who makes personal, impertinent, or slanderous remarks or who becomes boisterous while addressing the city council shall be removed if directed by the presiding officer. Are there any registered speakers for the hearing of visitors?
Yes, sir. The first registered speaker is Charmaine Hooper, and I'm promoting her to a panelist now, and she'll have 3 minutes. Ms. Hooper, are you available? Are you on the line? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, there we go. Hi, my name is Charmaine Hooper, and I'm just here to talk about 3 homes that I purchased on South 9th Street. Before purchasing these houses, I'd learned that they were located within a TIF zone, and I realized that I could get funding for public areas, improving public areas. So I went to City Hall to get more information about this and how I can go about receiving these funds. So I spoke with someone by the name of April. I don't remember her last name, but I knew her as April. She gave me information about applying for the funds. She suggested that I go meet with Kent George and Millett Harrison. So I had a number of meetings with them to discuss getting the funding. I also just wanted to say that I fixed up 1 vacation rental. First of all, these 3 homes were going to be vacation rentals. I fixed up the first one, made that legal to rent out, and at that time, I was told that if I were to do the second house, I would have to improve the alley and improve the sidewalk. So I thought, well, since I'm going to be able to get the funding to improve the sidewalk in the alley, there was no reason not to do it. So I was even asked to sign a document at the planning office stating that I would improve the alley and the sidewalk. So after meeting with Mr. George and Mrs. Harrison for a number of meetings, I also met with Jim Reed. I was told that I would not get the funding. Mind you, I had met with them and I'd worked on the application for months, getting all this together. And Mr. George wanted me to make sure that I had everything together to make sure that I can submit it and it would be a good application. But then to come in and submit the final application and find out that it was not accepted, I thought that was a little bit strange. So, so the problem now is that my license would not be submitted to me, would not be issued to me unless I improve the sidewalk and improve the alley. And the question I have is why is it that I'm being asked to improve the alley when it's really the city's property?
Ms. Hooper, as I mentioned, since this is not on an agenda item and because it's not posted, we can't comment with you directly, but staff is taking notes. This whole city council heard your commentary, and our staff will be following up with you. I trust that the city secretary has your contact info, and you can expect a follow up shortly. But we really thank you for coming out this evening.
Sure. Thank you for listening.
Yes, ma'am. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Esmeralda, do we have any other speakers registered for the hearing of visitors?
Yes, sir. Alan Northcutt registered for an item that's no longer on the agenda. Since it's not on the agenda, it can be addressed at the hearing of visitors.
Very good. Good evening, Dr. Northcutt.
Just give me a second. There he is. Dr. Northcutt, are you on the line? You are on mute right now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes.
Let me make a statement before I start my 3 minutes, because this is sort of an unusual situation. This had to do with Resolution 2021-072, purchase of a chiller unit for one of the city's facilities. Apparently, this was taken off the agenda today. So I'll start my 3 minutes comment on that now. When we talk about the climate crisis, our primary focus is on the greenhouse gas CO2. However, the ubiquitous refrigerants termed HFCs are greenhouse gases, and they have warming potential up to 9,000 times greater than that of CO2. Thus, back in 2016, 170 countries signed the Kigali Amendment to phase out these HFCs through the year 2028. This change is projected to prevent 0.5 Celsius of warming, and this is a huge amount of mitigation. So how is this relevant to the purchase? Well, the chiller unit purchased from Jacobs Cathy Company will contain a refrigerant. Now, technical details are not provided on the agenda, but it is likely an HFC called R410-A, because in essentially every HVAC purchase I've seen through the city here over the last couple of years, it has been this HFC. But the good news is there are alternative refrigerants on the market today that have minimal global warming potential. And I have a file for you, which hopefully you have, from the EPA, which lists low warming refrigerants. At the bottom, there's a chart which lists these new refrigerants that don't have greenhouse gas potential. In fact, they have some listed there specifically for chiller units. And I marked 3 of those with a green check mark. My second file for you gives examples of corporations which are already using these, including Pepsi, Coke, Target, and others. Thus, when this does come up, rather than approving this with business as usual, I call on the council to vote no. Of course, they need to know what is the type of refrigerant being used in this. If it is an HFC, which causes warming, the city can search for an alternative chiller unit which uses one of these new, safer refrigerants. And beyond just this purchase, going forward with all HVAC purchasers, we have to look for new non-warming refrigerants. And finally, there was an omnibus spending bill passed by Congress in December, which actually calls for decreasing the consumption of these HFCs 85% by 2036. So installation of an HFC refrigerant in a chiller unit now would make no sense, because it will probably have to be replaced in coming years. So, the cost would just be amplified. So I see this as a great opportunity for the council to do something positive for our planet and our children by taking action going forward and moving to these new refrigerants that do not have this tremendous greenhouse warming effect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Northcutt. Are there any other registered speakers for the hearing of visitors?
No, sir. That is all of our registered speakers.
We will now close the hearing of visitors, and we will move on to council member reports, committees, boards and commission liaison visits. And before we do, I just wanted to remind everyone that this is Black History Month. And Waco's history on this subject is both deep and wide. It is filled with heroes and legends, triumphs and tragedies. And I would encourage our entire city to take a moment to spend some time, much time in this special and sacred month, and to learn about our community's history, ask some hard questions about where we move forward. So just as a reminder that we have entered into that month. Are there any other reports, committees, boards, commission, liaison visits?
Mayor Meek, I don't have a report per se, but I do need to make a correction. Yesterday, I had the privilege of speaking at the Tree of Life dedication, the mural that the Art Apprenticeship Program did with Creative Waco and TFMB and Waco ISD. And while I was giving my remarks, I said Cultural Arts of Waco, and I know it's Creative Waco. So I would like to just publicly go on record to apologize to Fiona for getting my lines crossed. So please forgive me. But I would like to offer this, and as you mentioned that we are beginning Black History Month, and Waco has such an amazing history. I would just want to share with you all a quote from Jules Bledsoe. He said, noted baritone and amazing opera star from Waco. He said, in order not to pass out of this world forgotten in a few years, do some unselfish good. It does not take a genius, fame, or fortune. All it requires is a good heart and a kindly spirit.
It's a great quote. Great quote to end the evening on. Any other reports or liaison visits?
No, but I would like to sympathize with Councilmember Barefield. We've all had our moments where we said something in public that we later regret. So I sympathize with you, my friend.
Well, I was going to say no one probably would have remembered it if you hadn't drawn more attention to it tonight, but I commend you for going above and beyond.
I have to now. I honor all the work that Doreen Ravenscroft and Waco Cultural Arts have done, but I have to give Fiona her credit too. So Creative Waco deserve those kudos and deserve to be identified properly.
There you go. There you go.
One last board update, Mayor Meek. We had the pleasure of appointing Mayor Potem Hector Sabido as our new chair of the Public Health District, and we got the joy of fully unanimously confirming our new Public Health Director. So those were an exciting little tidbit.
They're great appointments. We're excited for that. Any other requests? Requests for scheduling of future agenda items? Hearing none, we will adjourn this meeting at 7:21 p.m. Everyone have a great evening. Thanks.